So my gelato cardigan is officially finished, and it is by far the biggest project I've ever made. So I figured it deserved its own video so you can hear all the stories, because this cardigan could tell you some stories. Hello and welcome back to the Knit Life Oils YouTube channel. So the first thing I want to do with the gelato cardigan is show you the whole thing. It's kind of hard to get it all on camera, but I'm gonna see if I can back up a little bit. Okay, there's your one peek at all of it. So this is the back. There is a V pattern that's formed with lace, and it happens on the sleeves as well. And I did add this cable edging that I will tell you more about in a minute. But until then, there's your little full tour of the gelato cardigan. Okay, so let's get into some stories. I took my cardigan off so that I can show you some things, but we're gonna start from the very beginning of this cardigan, and I'm gonna tell you some stories about it because there are some stories. So first of all, this is the gelato cardigan. It was a pattern on Ravelry, and it has since been taken down, so it is not available anymore. I'm not the designer, so I don't know anything about why it was taken down or anything like that. But I just know it's not available anymore. So the first story starts with this yarn, and the yarn comes from Bellisle Knits, who is Coley and a yarn dyer in Canada. And last summer, she started posting all of her Taylor Swift colorways. And as she was posting her Taylor Swift colorways, I started looking at them and I was like, so that one could fade into that one, which could fade into that one. And so as she released each one, I was starting to like put them together. And then she asked like how, like for what color combos do you want to see and stuff like that. And so I started like giving her like my ideas, and then she added the rest. So she was able to help me put all of these colors together, which was amazing. So it was a little bit of a long turnaround. So I think I ordered it like over the summer, and then I got it like later in like the beginning of the year or something like that. And I was totally fine with that. I did not need a giant cardigan project to start. So, yeah, I kind of waited for a while and thought about all the things. So then I got the yarn and I wound a little bit of it and decided to get started. So I started on this pink section, and the pink section was super easy. No big deal. Normal raglan increases, cute little yarn overs, super simple. And then I got to the part where I needed to split for the sleeves. And I realized that I was going to have some yarn control issues because, well, it's a really long cardigan. So how much yarn do you use for the body versus the sleeves? So I tried to think of all kinds of ways to do it. Like, do I split them in 3? Do I knit this many rows and then go back? Like, how do I do it? And really, what it came down to was I needed to knit the sleeves first. Now, I was quite grumpy about this because I'd never done a cardigan that way where I knit the sleeves first and then the body. The sleeves always feel like a reward to me. Like at the end, you get to like do something quick and easy. And this did not feel like a reward. This felt like a punishment for sure. And it kind of was the entire time of knitting sleeves first. And so I was not a fan of that. I'm still not a fan of that. And it was just a very different process. But that allowed me to make the sleeves match and make sure that there was enough yarn for both sleeves so they look totally the same. And then all of the rest of the yarn could go into the body of the cardigan. So once I had the sleeves done and stuff, I realized that it was almost time for Flock Fiber Festival, and so I needed to make my tank top that I was going to wear there. So I kind of took a break and I started working on that tank top, and so I didn't work on this very much, and I just kind of let it sit there. And then, so I got that top done, and it was about time to go to Flock Fiber Festival, and so I started picking this up and working a few rows, and it was really easy to just keep knitting on because it was so much knitting. And so I was like, I'll just take this project. And my friends were like, why are you taking a 7-skein sweater project to a fiber festival? And I'm like, I don't know, because I want to. It feels like a good idea. And it was a great idea, don't get me wrong, to take it with me because it was super easy knitting and it ate up some of the rows I had to do. So that was not the problem. The problem came on Sunday morning when I went to find the bag in the trunk of my car that we'd all been living out of, and it wasn't there. So not only did I now bring a 7-skein sweater project to Flock Fiber Festival, which I got to show to Coley, the yarn dyer, as it was in progress, and we were both elated by this fact. Now I had lost it. How one loses a 7-skein sweater project, I will never understand. I will never be able to figure this out, but I did. So, yeah, that became a thing. And then I was like, asking my friends, like, have you seen it? And they're like, no, it wasn't back there last night. And I'm like, okay. So I knew the only place it could be was either at the festival or at the brewery that we had been at for the party the night before. And so I kind of worked that out in my head. And then I went and asked the organizers because they were cleaning up when we left that night. And so one of them had found it and brought it back to the venue. So it was safe. It spent the night in her hotel room. We're not talking about the fact that my cardigan had to spend the night in the event organizer's hotel room. But they're like, is it the sunset one? And I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's the cardigan. I'm like, okay. So anyway, it went on an adventure, but it got to come home with me. So yay, that was good. So I kept working on it. And then I got to about this point where I was, what is that, the 4th color or so? And I just instinctually like felt it that I was at the point like that I would stop on a normal cardigan, and my brain just like felt it getting past it. Like I could not, like it was a really hard point to get past because I just had to keep knitting, and it felt like a lot of knitting, and there's a snag and I need to fix it before my brain goes crazy. But it just felt like a lot, and you're like, oh, this is never going to end. And so I just kept going. And then at certain points, I kind of felt like I was going to run out of yarn. And in fact, I did. It was only, I think I had 2 rows left before I needed to stop. And so I ended up stopping like a little bit early. And then I did this giant bottom. The bottom had hundreds of stitches on it. And so I did a garter stitch edge because that's what the pattern called for. Now, the garter stitch edge was in this peach color. And my friends were like, oh, it looks fine. It's a pop of color. And I'm like, it wasn't supposed to be a pop. It was supposed to be more of the same. No? Okay. So I really wasn't loving it. And I was really frustrated, but I was very much not going to pull out the hundreds of stitches it took to put that bottom in. And I was like, it just is what it is. It's fine. But there was also a garter stitch collar, that's what it's called, in that same color around the edge. And I was like, well, maybe I don't have to do that. Like, maybe I can do something different. And so I thought about it, and that flock top that I just made, I had invented a bind off that had a cable on it to attach it to the edge because it matched the sleeves of that particular top. And so I was like, well, I wonder if I could just do a cable and bind it off, like, or pick up the stitch and knit it in. So I picked up a stitch and then knitted it on either side and basically just did an applied cable around the edge, and it's beautiful. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of the cardigan. Like, I did not think I would love it that much, but it truly is one of my favorite parts, and I'm so glad that I did that. So, when I had finished the cardigan, I asked my 13-year-old sister to take some photos. She has been really into photography lately, and so we got to go and take these beautiful pictures of the cardigan, and it was super fun to, like, lay it out and do all the things. But it had one problem. And the problem was that it dragged on the ground. Like, how how does one make a cardigan that drags on the ground? And it was so funny because I asked all my knitting friends and they've never had this problem. They're like, we have no idea what to tell you. And I'm like, yeah, that makes two of us because I've never had this problem before. All right, well, and so I kind of like gingerly took it out a couple times, and one time I took it out and I wore it to a yarn store and it became a problem because the corners started felting. They were already on the bottom. I was like, this is not going to work. Okay, what are we going to do? And I was like, okay, Mom, can you see if you can felt it, or not felt it, don't do that, steam block it and see if we can get some inches to come up on it. And so that wasn't working. That didn't go well. And she's like, but I found a video that you can cut it. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's what every knitter wants to hear. Cut your knitting. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? That might not be the worst idea in the world. So, I am not great at seeing the line across. And so I did use a needle beforehand to go back through and thread them, but I was off multiple places. And so it ended up being fine in the end. But I just basically made one cut on the edge and then picked out all of that row and was able to get those stitches back on the needles. And so this worked for a few reasons. One, I got to take off the bottom border that I didn't like. So that worked out great. I ended up taking off the whole next color, which is 8 inches. And that worked beautifully because I was able to get it all the way off the ground, and it's going to grow back again a little bit, but I'm just hopeful it won't go all the way to the ground. There's that. But there is a lot of drama in this cardigan. And so it took off a little bit of the drama, but not too much. I hope I'll get some of it back. But it worked because, the border was actually a different yarn. So I just made a cut here and a cut on the main one, and then on the other side for the border as well. And that was able to work. So I got everything back on, and then I thought about what I could do. Like, can I do ribbing? Can I do, I really don't want to do the garter stitch border. Do I want to do seed stitch? What do I want to do? And then it occurred to me that maybe I just want to bind it off. There's plenty of other elements to this whole thing. So I decided to do an Icelandic bind off, which shouldn't curl very much. And it doesn't. It just beautifully lays on the bottom. And it's been so nice to have it like that. And I think it works great. So I took this on its first outing this weekend. And it went with me to Salt Lake City and Pocatello, Idaho. And it worked great. So there are some issues with the fit of the arms. So I need to go block it again and see if I can get them to come up a little bit before I wear it to a Rhinebeck. That is what this was actually made for. This is my Rhinebeck sweater. So I will definitely have it on there on Saturday. That is what I am planning on wearing it for. But yeah, so overall, this cardigan had some adventures. It took me about 3 months to make it. And it, like, if you added all the time together, I guess, like, there was some breaks in there, obviously, but yeah, so it actually didn't take as long as I thought. I would imagine that there are the same or more stitches than a blanket. I should have just made a blanket. But this is definitely the biggest project I've made. It's also the most, like, shocking or jaw-dropping or whatever you want to call it. It has a lot of personality, which is great. I love that for me. So I'm definitely going to wear this to festivals and stuff, and it's going to be awesome. But yeah, so that is the story of the Gelato cardigan, and I'm sure you will see it popping up all over the place. Talk to you soon.